solely my decision. It is my responsibility to make certain that substantive evidence is not released to the public until we have completed that process.
The Marion County prosecutor announcing today he will not release surveillance video in a case involving an IMPD officer shooting and killing an unarmed man. Kevin Hicks was shot and killed at a gas station last week. That shooting taking place after Hicks' wife called 911 saying her husband was hitting her. When police tried to intervene, Hicks began assaulting the police officer. Now, witnesses say the officer tried to use a taser, and they suggest that Hicks may have tried to grab the officer's gun. Police say the footage does not include the shooting because the struggle happened outside the view of the surveillance camera. Some in the public want investigators to release the video so they can see it. The prosecutor explained this morning why that won't happen.
If any of the individuals or anyone in the public who believes that this sort of information should be released to the public, if they had a family member who was a suspect in a criminal investigation, can you imagine their reaction if there was video that we then released to say, look what this person has done? I mean, clearly the fundamental consideration is not to prejudice the rights of anyone who might be involved in one of these situations.
And we're joined in studio by IMPD Chief Troy Riggs, who was at this morning's news conference. Chief, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so what's your reaction here? The prosecutor's not going to release this video yet.
I understand that. It's something that we've spoken to clergy here in the city when we met with clergy a couple weeks ago, quite frankly, before this shooting occurred. Also, we had this conversation during the national forum. There's going to be time and time again with new video that's going to be coming out with body cameras when they're rode on the street. This is going to continue to be a question. If there's a criminal investigation, that has to be treated as evidence. But there is one caveat. I have made a promise to the community that anytime we have a video that's in question, once the criminal case has been finalized, I will release it to the public. The public will see this video.
Have you seen it?
I have seen parts of the video. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I think that our night chief, Cunningham, did a very good job explaining the situation the first couple of days. I was certainly out of town at that time and came back immediately because of this use of force. Anytime a police officer is involved in use of force, that's a tremendous issue here in the city, and I want to be here in the city, so that's why I returned.
What does the video show?
Well, the video shows exactly what Chief Cunningham said. There was some type of struggle, but we could not see the shooting. But to go in any more detail at this time would go against the wishes of the prosecutor.
Okay, there are some that feel that not releasing it shows that either police or the prosecutors are trying to hide something. Can you address that?
That's not the case, and for individuals that believe that, I would ask them to come to one of our meetings when we've talked about this. We were talking about this issue before the shooting because we knew that it was likely going to be an issue sometime in the history of, or in the future of IMPD. So we sat down and we've explained that. We'll explain that more on the 20th. We already had a pre-meeting set up with clergy. We've been working on this for over a month, and we're saying if you want to be involved and want to hear more about that process and what we're doing as a police department to deal with crime and also deal with some of the issues of diversity, come to that meeting on the 20th at 1 p.m. Call my office. We'll give you all the details.
Why hasn't the name of the officer been released yet?
That name will be released today. As I said, when I return back, I asked about that. The officer's name traditionally hasn't been released for maybe a week or two. We're going to do that a little bit faster this time. We have alerted the Fraternal Order of Police. We'll be doing that. We'll share that officer's name. But Scott, one thing we have to be clear of, in 2016, sometimes when an officer is involved in an incident like this, their family becomes a target by just a small group of individuals nationally. We want to make sure that they're safe as well, and that we get down to the truth of what happened that night. That is ultimately what everyone wants.
Based on what you've seen, based on what you've heard, based on the investigation that you've done, did this officer act appropriately? At
this time, it is too premature for me to make that assumption. I need to make sure I see the video completely. I need to hear the 911 tapes. I need to see all the interviews. But before I really going to look at all of that, I need to let the prosecutor do his work, because that is first and foremost. When that criminal case is finalized, if it does not move forward, then I'm going to have to look to see if any policies and procedures are violated, and we'll be talking to the officers then, and I'll be reviewing that information, and we'll make a decision, and once again, we'll share that decision with the public.
Many of the faith-based leaders have been asking for transparency in this case. What have you been doing to try to reach across to members of the faith-based community to try to let them know that you are being transparent?
Well, I think the transparency came in about the video. and the prosecutor announced that today. But let me talk about transparency for a second. The things that we've done the first 90 days worked in this incident. Our night chief, we never had anyone at that level working at night, was able to get information out to the public within about 2 hours of the situation happened. That's never happened in the history of IMPD. Not only did we get the information out, we shared that the individual was not armed. We were being clear, we were being concise in our information, and we were being truthful, and that's the most important. Within 24 hours, we were able to give a different picture, or a bigger picture, of what happened during that night. We wanted to give preliminary information so people would understand what was going on. That's been as transparent as any police department in this nation can be. We're also having numerous meetings and making sure that individuals understand that if they have a question, all they have to do is call us to the meeting. We'll show up anytime, any place to talk about our procedures and to be transparent, and we will be transparent when this final investigation is completed.
All right, so later today we'll get the name of the officer involved in this shooting.
Absolutely.
And at some point, you're telling our viewers that they will see this video at some point.
They certainly have my word. That's my responsibility as Chief of Police.
All right, Chief Troy Riggs, thanks so much for being in here today.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you. All right.